Hello, I'm Edward Kranz of BookForge, and I'm here with an interesting little tip you may or may not be aware of. Bookbinders have been doing this for ages. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bone folders and I'm going to season them in some walnut oil. And so what this does is it seals up the pores in your bone folder, and it makes it a lot smoother and easier to clean. It also will give it a beautiful color. So what I've done, if you take a look here, is I have one of each size, or at least roughly each size, and I'm going to put them in here. And I'm going to coat them with walnut oil. Now, you don't have to use walnut oil. You can use ground nut oil. You can use linseed oil. You just want it to be a high quality oil. And I'm going to put enough in here to cover these. Now, there are more than one way of doing this. You could, if you're just doing one, you could wrap it in a rag and coat that rag with the oil, and then wrap that with saran wrap. I'm going to be doing these and some others, so I want to make sure that they're covered. All right, those are completely covered. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to let those soak in there for 24 hours and then 36, and then we'll take a look at what they look like after each time period. Thank you. Okay, so it's been a little over 24 hours, and we're going to take a look at what we've got here. So I think you can already see there's a big difference. In the color. Now I got oil all over the place. All right, 1 second. So we're going to do a little close-up here, so you can see there definitely is a bit of a color difference. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put these back in the oil for another 24 hours. And we'll check out and see what the difference is tomorrow. All right, so we put the bone folders in the oil, and we checked on them in 24. I missed the 48-hour opportunity, so we are now up to 72 hours. So I think these are pretty much done. So we take these out of the oil and make a small mess here. All right, so just kind of a recap on why we season them with an oil, and that is to make them less brittle, more flexible. It closes up their pores, which makes them glide smoother and easier to clean. So, all right. So this is what we've got so far. And I'm going to take these over to the sink and wash them with soap, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got them washed up. Now I would recommend once you get them out of the oil, make sure you definitely wash them with a detergent, dishwashing soap, whatever, a couple times. Make sure you get all the oil off. Maybe even let them sit for a day before you start using them. You don't want to put oil on your beautiful books or paper that you're using the folders on. But as you can see, they get a nice rich amber color to them. And if you pick them up, and I realize you can't tell from the video, but there's a definite texture difference. I mean, this is way smoother than this one right now. But there you go. Old bookbinder trick to make the best out of your bone folders. My name is Edward, and I'm the head bookbinder at Bookforge. Have a great day. Okay, so we're going to do a little 411 on oiling your bone folders. In the demonstration that you just watched, I took a bunch of bone folders and I put them in a container and smothered them in oil. I did this because I have a whole bunch. Now, Annie Wilcox, in her book, let me get the titles correctly, A Degree of Mastery, A Journey Through Book Arts Apprenticeship, she talks about taking your bone folder, saturating a rag and wrapping the bone folder really tight. I'm not actually using the oil, but you wrap it really tight and then you put it in, let's say, a Ziploc baggie. Push all the air out and then wrap it really tight. So if you're just doing onesie-twosies, this is definitely a good way to go about it if you don't want to waste the oil. In my case, the oil is going to get repurposed. Put it back in the container until I have another workshop and more bone folders come in and out. So this originally came to my attention because of a post on Facebook, and I've been bookbinding for well over a decade now, and this was the first I'd heard about it. There's very few masters here in America that are teaching apprentices. So that kind of knowledge is kind of slipping through people's fingers. Now there was a lady, Olivia Cuzio, who was an intern at the Penn State, undergraduate conservation, preservation, and digitation department. She got together with some folks in that department, and her and William Minter did a detailed study. And so for my folks on Patreon, I will attach this document as a PDF underneath this video. And if this appears somewhere else in social media, it'll either be in the link will be in the description, or it will be in the comments. It's a really in-depth study on bone folders for book and paper conservation, an in-depth examination. And it originally came up because of a question. I've seen this discussed online, but they were wondering about, once you oil a bone folder, even after you clean it, is there a chance of oil transfer from the bone folder to the paper, whether it's a document you're conserving or a book. So they went through and they did this really in-depth study where we're not going to go through all this, but they detail the hardness testing, how they prep the bone folders. They did some scanning with electron microscope. And then the part that we're really interested in is their experiment of oiling the bone folder. So they took several bone folders and they used vegetable oil, 100% soybean, olive oil, 100%, and boiled linseed oil. In my efforts, I use walnut oil. I don't think it really matters as long as you get a really good quality oil to do this with. Now, each of the oils that they used gave a different degree of that orangish amber color. But when all was said and done, they discovered that there wasn't actually a transfer of oil from the oiling process from the bone folder to the paper. They did find traces of oil from the paper making mechanisms. They also found traces of human hand oil. So make sure that whether you're using a bone folder or a Teflon folder, clean them often, because you can transfer your hand oils to it. Let's see. They talked about some other stuff in here, but I'll let you go ahead and read the document. Now, it was interesting to note in Annie Wilcox's book, I believe that's where I found this, old school bookbinders, they used to use the oil from their forehead and the side of their nose, and they felt that was sufficient to keep their bone folders oiled and reduce that slippage. So, oiling your bone folder, I've mentioned this before, does a couple things. The primary reason is to reduce the amount of slippage. That will reduce the amount of burnishing that you do to your paper. It also closes up the pores, which makes it a lot easier to clean. It also makes your bone folders more durable, less brittle. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Leave your comments. Happy to hear from you. I'll answer questions as they come in, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you.